Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 2 in Human Resource Management, Strategic Human Resource Management. All right, so our learning objectives for tonight are to describe the differences between strategy formulation and strategy implementation, list the components of the strategic management process, discuss the role of the human resource management function in strategy formulation, describe the linkage between human resource management and strategy formulation, discuss the more popular typologies of generic strategies and the various human resource management practices associated with each, and describe the different human resource management issues and practices associated with various directional strategies. Sounds complicated, but let's get some clarity for all this. Introduction. So what does strategic management include? It includes having the goal to deploy. What does the word deploy mean? You deploy soldiers, you send soldiers, you utilize. To deploy and allocate resources for a competitive advantage. Human resources is not just a matter of some guy sitting behind a desk hiring and firing people and telling you that your Oxford insurance changed. That's not the main purpose of human resources. Of course they do that. The main purpose is to help the organization gain a competitive advantage. And the truth is, all parts of the organization do that in some fashion. HR has a direct linkage to that, in that it helps you hire, hopefully, the right people. And that's very, very important. It helps you keep the organization together. Integrally involving the human resource management function and using a business model to create value for customers. And that's really the point of a business model, is to create value for customers. We actually spend a lot of time at the beginning of business policy when we went through the slides there, speaking about what a business model is. So stay tuned for that course, coming attractions. As I mentioned before, some of the slides have this information on the bottom. So what is a business model? Accounting concepts, fixed costs, variable costs, margins, gross margins. Margins are the difference between what you change for your product and the variable costs of that product. They are called contribution margins because they are what contributes to your ability to cover your fixed costs. Fourth, the gross margin is the total amount of margin you made and is calculated as the number of units sold times the contribution margin. So these are all terms that you find in accounting, and this explains basically what a business model is how you make money. All right. So what is strategic management? So it's a process for analyzing company's competitive situation, developing the company's strategic goals, and devising a plan of action and allocation of resources that will help a company achieve its goals. Think of the goal, think of business as a war. All right? There's a war going on. You want to make money. You want to make sure that your competition doesn't destroy you. So what do you do in a war? You deploy your assets. Assets are your artillery, your armored divisions, your air arm, your psychological operations, special forces. All right, without getting to turning this into an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, you have to properly deploy and utilize. If you don't use the right strategies, you get ambushed. You lose your assets. So the same is true here with strategic management. And again, vis-a-vis human resources. Again, it's a process. It's the approach to addressing the competitive challenges, managing the pattern or plan that integrates an organization's major goals, policies, and actions, sequences into a cohesive whole. And human resources is that voice of reason that resonates behind all of this and helps develop strategies for achieving the company's goals in light of its current environment. So what is strategic management? So strategic HRM, human resource management, that's what HRM stands for, is the pattern of planned human resource deployments. Again, think of it as the general, and he's sending his soldiers to a particular sector of the battlefield that needs support. Right? You have a line of soldiers, somebody shot a missile and just killed 500 soldiers, now there's a gaping hole. You have to plug that hole. So think of business in the same way. There's a problem, and we now have to take resources from one area and then deploy it somewhere else. Just think of it this way. I'm a human resource manager, and I get a frantic call from the CEO telling me, listen, we need to hire 15 employees by next month for the finance department. They just had 3 women went on maternity leave and may not be back for a long time. So-and-so went on disability. We need people in this department, that department. We need your help now. So basically, the CEO in this example is the general calling in an airstrike, giving you the coordinates and say, listen, take your assets. Go on Monster, go on Indeed, go on ZipRecruiter, post postings, make sure we have maximum coverage, and that we get people in within the next month. Go out and do a career fair. Go out and do active recruitment. Go to the college campuses. We need to fill these positions. Sometimes these positions must be filled very quickly. We had a position filled as a physician assistant in our facility. We were frantic. We needed to fill it fast. We engaged in a very, very proactive and a very, very aggressive recruitment endeavor. And thank God it paid off. We were able to find the right candidate. But it's cost us a lot of money. We had to spend $1,000 just on ZipRecruiter we kind of boosted and double boosted, triple boosted. Just think of a latte with 6 shots of espresso inside of it. We wanted to make sure that we hit the maximum, have the maximum exposure out there to get great candidates. And we got candidates from all over the United States of America. And it was pretty cool. And of course, that was for our benefit. So let's move on. 7, components of the strategic management process. Strategy formulation. Strategic planning groups decide on the strategy and the strategy implementation. So again, it's not just a matter of putting it on a piece of paper. We discussed this in the beginning of business policy. It's not enough to just create a strategy that sits on a piece of paper. We must also deploy that strategy. Strategy implementation, organization follows through on the strategy. Let's read the bottom to see if there's anything more we can add. Success. So the success of the strategic management process depends largely on the extent to which human resource management function is involved. Okay. Strategic management has 2 distinct phases. Number 1, the formulation of the strategy, and the strategic planning group decides on its strategic direction by defining the company's mission and goals, its external opportunities and threats, and its internal strengths and weaknesses. It's kind of that SWOT analysis. We're always stuck with that SWOT analysis, but it's really a part of this. And strategy implementation. The organization follows through on the strategy that has been chosen. This includes structuring the organization, of course, allocating resources. That's really important. It's not enough to say, get the job done. Even Patton said something, and George Patton was a tough general. He said, my men can eat their belts, but my tank's got to have gas. He was screaming to his his higher leadership, tell him, listen, if you want me to perform, my men can sacrifice. They'll eat smaller rations. They'll drink less water. They'll eat less food. But a tank needs gas. It needs ammunition. It's worthless without it. So that was his call for fuel. There were a lot of fuel shortage. There was a lot of supply shortages when America landed in Normandy because the supply lines were stretched thin because the spearhead went too far ahead. That's why he was screaming for redeployment and getting more ammunition and stuff. But allocation of resources is vital. As human resources, you have to be a part of that. And part of the allocation of resources, you got to say, listen, I'm going to hire these people. You've got to give me adequate resources to do that. I need to make a job fair. In order to make a job fair, I need to advertise. If I need to advertise, I can't just advertise in a silly newspaper. I need to have real exposure. Okay? Ensuring that the firm has skilled employees in place and developing reward systems that align employee behavior with the strategic goals, incentivizing people. That's basic. This process entails a constant cycling of information and decision making. Next is figure 2.2, a model of strategic management process. Let's jump to the description in the appendix. I'm going to expand this for a minute. And the reason we do that is some people are okay with looking at models like this, flow charts. How many of you like flow charts here? You flow chart people? Or you like to just see it in writing? Like to see it in writing? Well, I'm with you. I'm not a big flow chart fan. So you see this little cool, nifty little link down here. You skip here because at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, there'll be appendices. And those appendices speak to the various figures that we have. So this is kind of a great way to jump ahead. So in 2.2, we have a model of the strategic management process. So this process involves strategy formulation, which we mentioned, which includes the firm's mission, goals, external analysis, the opportunities and threats of the SWOT analysis, and of course the strengths and weaknesses, which are the internal. These lead to strategic choice and human resource needs, skills, behaviors, and culture. And of course, these will manifest themselves in forecasts for employment. These in turn result in strategy implementation, including HR practices, which is recruitment, training, performance management, labor relations, employee relations, job analysis, job design, selection, development, pay structure, incentives and benefits, human resource capability, skills, abilities, and knowledge, human resource actions, behaviors, and results, productivity, absenteeism, which is something that you look into. We kind of mentioned organizational theory and behavior. Absenteeism is a sign of something very bad. Why does a kid want to be absent from school? What could be happening in school that would make a kid want to be absent?
Bullying.
Bullying. The same thing is true in the organization. If somebody's being harassed, somebody's being sexually harassed or being made fun of because of their religious beliefs or because of their sexual orientation and whatnot, what do you think is going to happen to productivity in that organization? It's going to go down. All right? And as a result of that going down, let me just...
I actually prefer it like this.
You prefer it like this? Okay, fine. I don't think it'll tape badly. I think it'll be fine, but it may just turn on. This is the disco room where the lights go on and off, on and off. But getting back to truancy and absenteeism, that is a result of something toxic in the workplace. It could be corporate bullying, it could be harassment, it could be also indicative of unfulfilling work. What happens if you work in a job that is super boring? It sucks the life out of you. Have you ever found yourself in a boring class? Hopefully not mine. Where you're just sitting there and like, when is this class going to end? And what happens in a class like that? You think there's good attendance? Probably not. Probably not. You probably go through a cycle. Okay, I'll go for 3 or 4 in a row and I got to miss one. 3 or 4 in a row, got to miss one. Mental health day. All right?
I wish I was that kind of person.
We don't have that option.
I know, but I'm just saying that, you know, I'm just saying, whatever holds true in absenteeism, there's only a couple students in this particular class, so absenteeism is really going to be noticed. But in any case, absenteeism and turnover. Turnover is the part where people just leave their jobs because they hate their jobs. I always mention this, and I'll just say it again. When you go on a job interview, ask 2 very important questions besides, of course, pay and benefits and all that. Is this a new position or is this backfill? Am I filling one that existed? And how long did the previous person have the job? And what were the circumstances of why they left?
You could ask that at an interview.
You should ask that. And if what?
The interviewer will be turned off.
If they're turned off, walk away, leave skid marks. Because it means they're hiding something. The same way, as long as it's asked in a respectful way, the same way they can ask you questions, they're going to want to see what kind of questions you're going to ask. And if they're like, oh, that's not an appropriate question, that's not something you should be asking, anytime someone's trying to hide something, walk away.
So wait, were the questions, how long did the person...
Is this a new position or is this backfill?
I'm going to write this.
And how long was the last person here? And why did they leave? They're going to ask you the same question. They're going to ask you, why are you leaving your organization? Right? They want to know. They want to make sure they're not getting someone that got fired. They want to make sure they're not getting someone who jumps from job to job. Well, guess what? You want to make sure you're not going into a psychotic work organization. In a psychotic work...
They can always lie, though. They can, like, say...
You're right. But you know what? They may want to hire you because you asked that question. Like, wow, this person is a thinking person. They have guts to ask the right questions. And it's a valid question. And if somebody doesn't want to answer it, don't take the job. Somebody's hiding something. You know, it's like when you're trying to get information about someone, right? Yeah, but humming and hawing. Oh, what skeletons are they hiding? You don't want to find out that the job stinks after quitting your previous job and being there for 6 to 8 weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself stuck with? You can't be intimidated on an interview. you have a right and a duty to ask questions. You'll be spending more time at work than you do at home, so you ought to make sure that your work environment is at a minimum decent and that you can handle it. You don't want to be in a situation where your work environment is hellish, where work environment sucks the life out of you. You don't want that. Trust me, I've been there, done that. Do your homework, look at Glassdoor, see what's going on, see what other people are saying on the internet, and ask questions. And please do not get intimidated by the interviewer. If you get intimidated by the interviewer, then you're in the wrong place. If somebody makes you feel intimidated, maybe you shouldn't be there. Okay? And firm performance, productivity, quality, and profitability. Emergent strategies can impact each of these areas. The final step is strategy evaluation, and of course, getting feedback and changing things as necessary. All right, so what is strategic management? Linkage between human resource management and strategic management process, strategic choice, where to compete, and vis-a-vis HR, where to compete with getting employees, and how do we compete for getting employees? So just think of a competition within the organization, right? We have an element of the organization, the business, trying to create an advantage of sorts, a strategic advantage, but within the organization, human resources also has a challenge in that it has to compete with other organizations that are looking for the same talent. Let's say you have two tech companies. They're both trying to hire the best and the greatest employees. So it's the job of HR to market the organization in a way, to have it appear, have a online presence that is attractive. Just think of it. If you're putting, like when you want to put a picture of yourself in your LinkedIn, you want to have a headshot, your LinkedIn headshot, you're going to make sure that you do your hair, if you're a man, take a shave, make sure you have a nice suit on, matching tie, you look like you're put together. Same thing for a woman, nice business suit, looking presentable, because that's the way you're going to be perceived. So HR is also involved in the struggle in competition to try to have this strategic advantage, to try to have the best practices, being able to lure, I don't want to use the word lure, but to attract employees. How to compete and with what will we compete? Next slide. So, we're going to talk about 4 levels of integration exist between the human resource management function and the strategic management function. Administrative linkage, one-way linkage, two-way linkage, and integrative linkage. So administrative linkage is defined as the lowest level of interaction. HRM function attention is focused on day-to-day activities. That's your admin stuff. In one way, the firm's strategic business management planning function develops a strategic plan that informs the human resource management function of the plan. So HR is being told the plan from up on top. Although one-way linkage does recognize the importance of HR in implementing the strategic plan, it precludes the company from considering HR issues while formulating the strategic plan, which is bad because it's leaving HR out of it. It's nice enough to let HR know what it needs to know, but it's not taking them in for consultation necessary. This level of integration often leads to strategic plans that the company cannot successfully implement because people underestimate the need for HR and the wisdom of HR. Companies with integrative linkage have the HRM function built right into the strategy formulation and implementation process. Two-way linkage allows the consideration of HR issues during the strategy formulation process. So they're sitting there in the boardroom with the CEO. You have the director of HR saying, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. That is against company policy. This is feasible. We need more resources to be able to properly recruit employees. HR should be a voice that is heard, not one that is like, children should be seen but not heard. You don't want that. You need to have active participation. So that's pretty much what's going on in this slide. And of course, as you notice, the bottom of this slide has excellent information. All right, so here, linkage. We kind of spoke about this for linkage of strategic planning and human resources. We had administrative, one-way, two-way, and integrative. This is kind of just like a summary of the previous slide. All right, figure 2.5 strategy formulation. You have your mission, your goals, your strategic choices, and you also have external analysis, opportunities and threats, which need to be looked at, and of course your internal. And throughout the process, you must have HR input to make sure that everything is running right. HR, think of HR as the glue. Think of HR as the battery that runs this toy. Right? You have a little cute little wind-up toy you're giving someone with a battery. We're making sure that things run smoothly. And the problem is, I think a lot of people don't look at HR like that. They look at HR as, oh my gosh, here's HR. What annoying thing are they going to bother us about now? They look at them as like the cops within the organization. We're not cops. We're making sure that things run right. Strategy formulation, mission, goals, external analysis, internal analysis, and strategic choice. Let's talk about this. As you see, as you expand this slide on the bottom, you have a lot of information. Strategic management process includes the mission, who we are and what we do, the goals, and the internal analysis and the strategic choices. And again, the internal analysis is the strengths and the weaknesses of the SWOT analysis, the S and the W. Mission is a statement of the organization's reason for being. It usually specifies the customers served, the needs satisfied, and or the values received by the customers and the technology used. Look at Google's mission, right, to organize all of the world's information. That's fantastic. Goals are what it hopes to achieve in the medium to long-term future. They reflect how the mission will be operationalized, how will it come into fruition. External analysis consists of examining the organization's operating environment to identify the strategic opportunities and threats, to see what they're up against and where they can shine. Examples of opportunities are customer markets that are not being served, technological advantages that can aid the company. So, for example, HR may say, listen, there are opportunities here. You could lead the way with customer service. In order to do that, we need to hire X amount of customer service reps to be able to help you continue down that path. So it's important for HR to put in their 2 cents. So we spoke about also customer markets that are not being served. Perhaps we could hire some more marketing people to reach out to them or to be able to engage in external marketing services. Also, threats include potential labor shortages, new competitors entering the market, pending legislation, things of that nature, and of course your competitors' technological innovations. So if HR picks up on a trend of technological innovation and we're falling behind, they'll be the one that's like tugging at the sleeve of the CEO and like, we need to beef up over here. We're weak. All right? HR could be the scout, using the Army as an example. What do scouts do in the Army? They go ahead of the main spearhead to glean information about the enemy's position. How are they deployed? What formations are they deployed in? What's their strengths, weaknesses? How much armor do they have? How much personnel do they have? Do they have dug-in positions, machine gun nests, barbed wire? This is the purpose of a scout. So HR is going to scout out, look at the environment and see, hey, what's going on? What are our competitors doing? How come they're getting all the best graduates? Why are they attracting all the great talent? This is stuff that HR needs to get involved with. So internal analysis attempts to identify the organization's strengths and weaknesses. It focuses on the quantity and quality of resources available to the organization, which are financial, capital, technological, and human resources. Organizations have to accurately assess each resource to decide whether it's a strength or a weakness. Strategic choice is the organization's strategy and describes the way the organization will attempt to fulfill its mission and achieve its long-term goals. Figure 2.2 is the SWOT analysis, and there's some examples here. All right, strengths, operational efficiency, broad range of services portfolio. They do a lot of different things. Opportunities, growing demand for online video, growth in internet advertising market. Weaknesses, losses at YouTube, for example. Okay, this is Google, by the way. Losing things on YouTube, losing the battle, dependence on advertising, threats, weakness, economic outlook, invalid clicks. How do you deal with invalid clicks? People judge how many clicks you have. Let's say how do you discern between the invalid and the valid click? So these are all examples of table 2.2 showing you the SWOT analysis for Google. And of course, here we have the expanded narrative. Strategy implementation. Strategic implementation requires that an organization has a variety of structural forms and organizational processes to choose from when implementing a given strategy. 5 variables: organizational structure. Go back all the way back to your principles of management. Max Weber, right? Administrative management, very, very much into organizational structure. That'll rear its head often. Organizational structure, organizational theory and behavior, how the organization is set up, what is the hierarchy, is it a tall structure, is it a flat structure? All these things are super, super important to keep in mind. So HRM tasks, the task design, selection, training, and development of people, a reward system. Reward system is very, very, very important. A lot of people make fun of reward systems. Oh, an employee of the month, you're going to give them a plant? Big deal. Let me say this, and I say this all the time. We are little kids stuck in big bodies. The same excitement that we had as little kids bringing home an arts and crafts project, we will have similar excitement if we get a gift card, if we get a shout out, a special email from the president, right? You get a letter of commendation, a plaque, a bonus. You're happy about these things. Reward systems are integral to the success of the organization. We can never forget that we have human beings with emotions, flesh and blood, that need to be recognized. Human beings must be recognized. Everybody has an ego. Some people's egos are super huge. Some people are super small. But everybody likes to be recognized. Maybe they may be a little bit shy, but they need to know at least that they are valued. If employees feel valued, if employees feel like what they do counts, they'll take their jobs more seriously. And if the rewards that are showered upon them are valuable, right? We're talking about Victor Vroom with motivation theory. We spoke about a concept back in management called valence, that the reward, the motivator, the motivation is something that people value, right? It's not like I come in here and offer you a slice of pizza if you come to class every night. That's not really something, you know? I give you a reward. I say, hey, whoever gets an A gets a free iPad. Whoa, everyone's going to be learning with real intent. That is not an offer. That's just an example.
Pizza will cost as much as my train tickets.
Depends what kind of pizza. With vegetables, deep dish, Chicago pizza. All these choices. All right, slide 16. I'm going to talk about this. Variables to be considered in strategy implementation. Right, so 2.6 represents the variables that determine success in strategy implementation, which are in the realms of organizational structure, task design, selection, training, and development of people, reward systems, types of information, and information systems. Excuse me. Human resource management has primary responsibility for task, people, and reward systems, and can directly affect structure and information and decision process. Wow. Human resources is that important. Again, I'm going to expand for those of us that don't like figures, and we're going to go here. Just let me take a quick sip of my Turo College vase, or not vase, drink.
Free advertisement.
Well, plug. Oh, well, I guess I can't. If I ever teach in another college, let's say I teach in Arizona State University, I can't be toting this. I'll have to reshoot the video. Oh, well. Well, technically these videos belong. Turo College, a place for fun, a place for knowledge. Turo technically owns all these videos, so I could say Turo all day long. It belongs to them. So if I do ever move on to a different organization or I teach on the side, I have to shoot one specifically for them.
Why does it belong to them?
Technically, that's because I shot it in Turo during Turo time. It's not like I did it on my own time in my house.
So if you were to teach the same course, same semester in another college, you can upload the same video?
I plead the fifth. I choose not to. I choose not to answer that question. Definitely not this one because I use the Turo thing. All right, enough joking around, folks. This is serious. This is HR. Appendix 2, Figure 2.6, variables to be considered in strategy implementation. A diagram that we just had before that looked like the solar system, all these little circles and lines. Ugh. Gave me a headache. A diagram shows human resource management has primary responsibility for 3 of the 5 implementation variables: task, what you're doing, the people, and reward systems. In addition, human resource management can directly affect the 2 remaining variables: structure and information and decision process. These variables are affected right? Product market strategy and performance. Just think of human resources as the guy that's putting coal into the old, those old trains they ran on coal. You're shoveling coal into the train so that it works, that it picks up speed. Let's move on, folks. Slide 17. Vertical alignment occurs when human resource practices and processes are aimed at addressing the strategic needs of the business. So there's a direct connection, a synergy between human resources and the policies and practices and processes. So vertical alignment, HR practices and processes address the strategic needs of the business. The link between strategy and human resource practices is primarily through people, job analysis and design, recruitment, selection systems that are fair and impartial, training and development programs. Remember, when you train and develop your employees, you get great employees who know what they're doing, but equally as important, you get employees that realize that you care about them, that you're investing in them, and if you feel cared about and invested in, chances are you'll want to stay there longer because it's like, oh, they got me to this point. If I play my cards right, I'll get more training, more development, more mentoring, and there's a career ladder where I can climb. If employees feel that there's room to move and maneuver, they will perform. If you feel like you're in a dead-end job, what happens? You tell me. What happens in a dead-end job?
You don't want to work.
A little bit louder.
You don't want to work.
You don't want to work. You're not interested. You're disengaged. You'll do your job decently, average at best, because what's the point? There's nowhere to go. Okay, figure 2.7, another one of these complicated charts. The figure presents the strategic management process from strategic choice to firm performance, illustrating the relationships among human resource needs, practices, capability and actions, human resource management function, implement strategy as figure 2.7 shows through administering human resource management practices vis-a-vis job analysis, design, recruitment, selection systems, training and development programs, performance management systems, so we could be able to keep tabs on who's performing well, who's performing poorly. Just think of a dashboard, for example, of your salesmen, and you're able to see who are your top 10%, your bottom 10%, and labor relations programs, making sure that you're on good terms with your labor unions. Let's just, for those of us that don't like charts, take a quick peek at the annotation. So strategic choice, figure appendix 3, figure 2.7 strategy implementation. Again, if you're looking at these slides, these appendices are at the end. Obviously, that's why they're an appendix. They're at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, and they will help you, aid you in understanding the different charts and tables that we have. So strategic choice involves human resource needs, including skills, behaviors, and culture, HRM practices, including recruitment, training, performance, management, labor relations, employee relations, job analysis, job design, selection, development, pay structure, making sure that you're paying men and women properly, you're not discriminating, for example, incentives and benefits. Human resource capability, including skills, abilities, and knowledge. Human resource actions, including behaviors and results, productivity, absenteeism, which we spoke about in turnover, and firm performance, including productivity, quality, and profitability. As I said before, HR has its work cut out for itself. We move on. Any comments or questions? And my old joke goes, I'm either doing a great job and you have no questions, or you're too tired to ask questions. I would prefer to think that I'm doing a great job. Go ahead.
My cousin, she used to work at a firm where basically they tracked how much time they spent at the computer, so how much time they worked. So every time she needed to take more than a 5-minute break, let's say, she would just put something on a space, on a keyboard, and as long as like she's typing someone as if she's typing on a keyboard.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
No, not terrible that she did that. It's just terrible. That's the way they judge performance.
That's the way they.
If you could so easily circumvent that, it shows that the validity of that system is not there. It's just it's not valid. Sad. It almost sounds like you want to beat a parking ticket because the officer forgot to put in something on the license. Yeah. Strategy implementation, HRM practices. Thank you for that addition. That was really good. job analysis and the design of the job, what goes into the job, recruitment, selection, training, development, performance management, pay structure, incentives, and of course labor-employee relations. Strategy implementation, pay structure, incentives and benefits, high pay and or benefits relative to competitors can help company attract and retain high quality employees, but might have a negative impact on overall labor costs. Okay, the old question, how much money do we have to spend on good employees? Well, unfortunately, many times that really depends on how wealthy the organization is. Baseball season is upon us. Well, this is upon me. I don't know if you're baseball fans, but one of the arguments about baseball is that the top teams that have big market cap, they have a lot of money in their coffers, they're able to buy great employees. People knock the Yankees, for example, because the Yankees always buy the best players. Well, what do you want them to do? They have the money. They're not going to sit on it. They're going to get good players because they want the stadium full. They want to win the World Series. And the same thing is true in business. You have an organization, they're going to want to attract people with high salaries. They want to put a delicious carrot at the end of the stick, not some carrot that's either unripe or rotten to its core. You want to make people feel good.
There's no salary caps in baseball?
To my knowledge, there's no salary cap. There is a luxury tax. There's a certain tax. If you spend too much on payroll, you have to pay this ridiculously high tax. But sometimes organizations pay that tax because they want to win. They haven't won in a long time. Many times organizations that have been doing poorly, as a result, they've been saving money, they'll go splurge. Like in this year, this is just like as a side note, the White Sox spent tons of money because they haven't won, I think, since 1996. So they're really, really interested in doing something. But again, in professional sports, you see the way the business is on professional sports team.
Professional sports have salary caps. Like football and hockey has salary caps.
I don't think baseball has a salary cap. Judging by what Cole on the Yankees got, I don't know, he got like something like $350 million, a ridiculous amount of money. I think, I don't know what Mike Trout got, some also a couple $100 million. There doesn't seem to be any salary cap. That doesn't mean that there won't be. But yeah, baseball players are paid fabulously. But to be fair, they do play a lot more games than any other professional sport. I mean, in football, they play 16 games. I think if they played any more games, you have so many more injuries. Imagine if you doubled the football season. Everybody would be injured by next year. They'd all be in a hospital with broken bones. But anyway, let's move into this. Again, high pay and or benefits relative to competitors can help attract high-quality employees, but might have a negative impact, of course, on your bottom line. And tying pay to performance can elicit specific activities and levels of performance from employees. So this is old school. This is pay for performance. You do more, you contribute more to the organization, you get more. Strategy implementation, continued labor and employee relations, employees, asset or expense. You have to look at what is an employee. Is it an asset or expense? It could be both. How much should employees participate in decision making? Well, it really depends. Are you the Frederick Taylor School of Management, or are you the Mary Parker Follet? Are you just looking at, as Taylor looked at, the processes, how can we save time? Or are you a Mary Parker Follet that says, listen, who knows the job better than the employee themselves? Let the employees have a tremendous say in their jobs because they'll have ownership of things, they'll feel more accountable, and they'll feel good about themselves. And that's ultimately what we want.